Well, let's get the latest from the United States. Now we're joined by correspondent Nick Harper in the US via Skype. Nick, this is massive, but it looks set to get even bigger, doesn't it?
Well, yes, certainly. It seems to be getting bigger, really, by the hour. And some very serious questions now being asked about whether the CEO, Martin Winterkorn, who only took over very recently, will be able to maintain that position in the company. In theory, some people within the company perhaps knew about that. And that is something that Martin Winterkorn wants to get to the bottom of, whether or not anyone knew. He's already said that irrespective of if they knew, some serious concerns have been raised. He's now apologized twice, releasing a video message in just the last hour, saying that clarifying the issue and regaining the trust of the public were VW's highest priorities at this time. No suggestion at this stage that he knew, but there's some very, very serious questions that need to be answered over the coming days.
Is the CEO likely to be out, Nick?
Well, if he knew and if that becomes apparent, then yes, you would think that he would need to go. The buck, in theory, would have to stop with him. They really now need to find out who knew. They have launched an investigation that they're going to carry out within the company. On top of that, we've also got a Department of Justice investigation here in the United States. That is now underway, and a probe is now being pushed further to look at other car models within the United States, including General Motors and Fiat, to see whether this scandal has not just involved VW, but has also spread to other automobile makers.
Even if the CEO didn't know, I mean, that raises questions itself. How much should the man at the top be involved in operations? The crisis response, to me, internationally, not here in South Africa, but internationally, seems to be quite good. They've basically admitted, owned up, apologized, and none of the hiding. I see the American CEO said, we basically screwed up. Is there any sympathy for VW?
Well, yes, they have jumped on this very quickly, and you can see that their public response, apologizing a couple of times, admitting guilt, has been very quick. But I think there is a mixed sympathy, the problem really being that they carried on for a year or so denying that there were any problems. The Environmental Protection Agency here in the United States had been asking for clarification for VW for over a year because they were worried about some of the fluctuations that they were getting in the emission testing. And throughout, VW was saying that they were spotting these irregularities, but there were technical issues. It was only when the Environmental Protection Agency threatened to withhold them being registered for the next year that VW turned around and effectively held up its hands to say that there had been some sort of cover-up going on. So because this has taken such a long time to come to light, and because VW for so long denied that there were any issues, I think their trust has, in a big way, been undercut.
So there could be a whopper of a fine here. Also, recalls. Do Americans want to give their cars back?
Well, I think some of them will now be looking at their VW sitting on their driveways and wondering just how safe they really are. The company has already recalled 500,000 vehicles. They may now have to look at other vehicle recalls, especially when they're telling us that 11 million vehicles may be involved in this whole testing rigging. And yes, a very big fine coming their way, potentially $18 billion, which would equate to about 40,000 US dollars for every single car that's been caught up in the scandal. And they're having huge problems in terms of the value of their company. It dropped about 20% of its market share value on Monday, another 20% down today, which means that yesterday alone it lost about 14 billion euros worth off the value of the company. So very much an investigation still ongoing, potentially more recalls to come, with Americans looking at their cars and wondering whether or not they should be giving them back.
All right, thank you very much. That was correspondent Nick Harper joining us from the United States.